The other thing about Linux system is that the users care about the font size, but they have them installed. So there are two types of users, one which don't care about the font style and the other that care about the font style and have them installed. So remembering Linux font names is difficult. If you can do so, it's good. If you can't, use generic font names, and maybe you can just leave it to the user and how the browser decides which font style to use. Now the second part of specifying the font for your HTML document or the web page is to specify the font size. So font sizes are also easy to change in CSS, but there is just one problem. That size that we specify in using CSS is only a suggestion. That is, in print media, if I say it's going to be 10-point font or 12-point font, that means exactly 10-point or 12-point. But for browser, we have the flexibility. It depends on the user. He can enlarge the font that size that is being displayed or reduce it according to his or her needs. The browser allows us that flexibility. It's generally done using the control key and the plus sign. So we press the control key along with the plus sign to increase the font size on the browser, and you can, to reduce the size, we use control key along with the minus sign. You can try this out if you haven't already done this. Also, if not, apart from this shortcut, we also have the text size option generally in the web browsers, which allows us to set the default text size for the browser. Now we come to the ability to adjusting the font size. So yes, you can obviously adjust the font size, but the CSS is only giving you a suggestion about the font size. It's not enforcing this, because there are two problems. If I ask the CSS to enforce the font size literally, it will cause the browser to enforce it. So this would be difficult for some people, some users who cannot see small fonts, who have some problems with their eyesight, who prefer bigger fonts. They do not get the flexibility. The other thing is the user can still change the font size. That is, there is still an option on the browser which allows you to change the text size. So obviously, what we are giving in CSS is just a suggestion. It would be followed as long as the user wants it to be followed. If the user wants to override the settings, he can go to the text size option in the settings and change the settings. So what is the solution? The developer should set up the font sizes, but mostly in relative terms, not in absolute terms, because absolute measurements don't really mean anything. So for specifying the font size, a general example would be here. You can see we have specified for the paragraph 5, I have opened the curly braces. Inside this we have used the font size attribute and we have specified it as small. Now small is a relative unit of measurement that indicates the font size is going to be small. Now how small or how large, it would depend on the browser. Small is a size that is generally smaller than the medium, large and extra large. So small is size around 8-point or 7-point font, also depends on browser to browser. So firstly, we come to the units of measurement. So there are two types of units of measurements: the absolute measurement units and the relative measurement units. Now coming over to absolute measurement units first. Absolute measurement units are basically going to specify the size in absolute terms. That is, you say it's going to be 1 centimeter, 2 centimeter. These are absolute units of measurements. 10-point, 10 pixels. These are basically, we are specifying the size in actual measurement units. In relative measurement, we specify the size relative to the default size. So firstly, seeing the absolute measurement units. The first absolute measurement unit is the points. This is, you might be familiar with this unit. It is used in most word processing softwares. So when I say the font size is 12 point, this generally means the printing size of the letters. So in print media, the point or PT, as we say, is used to specify the fonts in absolute terms. Now these scales aren't that effective in web pages as they are in print media. Why? Because the user is not going to see the web page printed on a page. It is going to see it on a screen. So when it comes to absolute units of measurement, a better unit would be to use pixels. Pixel is the smallest individual unit of the screen, also known as picture element. The small dots on the screen are known as your pixels in layman terms. They are abbreviated as px. You can specify the font size as 20 px. Now px indicates pixels. So the size is 20 pixels per character. So average height or width of the character would be 20 pixels. Now the traditional units of measurements can also be used. I can specify the size in inches and centimeters also. So this is also not that preferred. We generally go for the pixel option. Now we come to the relative measurement units. These are the ones that we are going to use for the web pages. Now the relative unit of measurements, the first one is named sizes. And so you can see the name CSS has named certain font sizes such as extra small, small, medium, large, extra large and extra extra. Clearly extra small is the smallest and extra large is the largest. All are indicated in order. So extra small is smaller than extra small is smaller than small is smaller than medium. Now large is larger than medium, and all these obviously. Extra large is larger than large, and extra large is definitely larger than extra large. Now how large? It depends on system to system and also what the user has set as the default font size of the browser, and it's in relation to the default that we decide the other sizes. Generally the default size is taken to be medium and the other sizes are adjusted accordingly. Now next we come to the percentage method of specifying the size. So now percentage is also now relative to something. Relative to what? The default size. So when I specify font size is equal to 150%, 150% of what? 150% of the default size. This is going to be 1.5 times roughly to the default size. Or I can also specify 75%. So this is going to be 75% of the default size. 100% is taken to be the default size here. The next method is EM. In traditional units of measurement, the EM unit used to be equivalent to the width of character M for a particular font. Now width of character M for a particular font was the traditional, but in web pages this means relative to the default size. So when I write font size colon 1.5 em semicolon, this means the font size to be used for the paragraph should be 1.5 times the normal size or the default size. So these are the relative units of measurement. Any of them can be used. You can use percentage, EM, or maybe the named sizes, whichever you want. So relative sizes are obviously better than absolute sizes because they give you flexibility. The user can specify the default size and all these sizes are then corresponding to that default size. So there are some strategies regarding the font size. So what we suggest is don't change sizes without a good reason. That is, it's okay to So just go with the default size. When you really want to emphasize something, use it. If you don't want to emphasize on anything, then don't change the size unnecessarily. The second point is that define an overall size for the page. So for that, you can just specify the size for the body tag. So the entire page is going to use that size. If you want to change the size for a particular element, then you can specify the size for that particular tag also. So the third point says that modify any other elements. Say, I specified for the body tag the font size to be 1.1 em, and I want the headings to be 2 em, the double the size. So I can specify for H1 or H2 level of the heading the font size to be equal to 2 em. So that was all about how you specify the fonts in HTML5. As a live exercise, I would request you to practice changing the font family and font size of an HTML page using CSS. Thank you.